So good morning. My name is Reverend Lezli Goodwin, or Reverend Karen Goodwin, or Reverend Karen Lewis, or I have a sister named Lindsay and a daughter named Lauren, so I haven't been called the right name since 1979. So I'm not too fussed about it. Somebody thought I said, introduce myself instead of Reverend Lezli as red-haired Leslie earlier today. I'm like, that too? That works too. Oh, and I just want to welcome every single one of you and every single one of you online from the very depths of my heart on behalf of the ecclesiastical team. We are so thrilled to have you with us, to have your consciousness with us, to have your love with us. You are one of us, whether you know it or not. We love you now. You're stuck with us. Welcome. So last week, I'll catch y'all up if you weren't here last week. Last week, we had a talk called Ashes, Ashes, We All Fall Down. And it's a sign that I have many, many children, that was my title. And it was all about this idea that we all fall down sometimes. We get sick. We have family members who die. We probably will eventually die. We lose jobs. Relationships come to an end. It happens. And we can have a little bit of a tendency in religious science, in new thought thinking, to think, well, I have inoculated myself against anything ever happening that isn't exactly what I would choose because I use the law. Anybody ever have that thought? How am I doing religious science wrong? I read the books, and yet things keep happening. And what we talked about is how it's okay. It's okay. What we don't want to do is keep beating ourselves up because on top of whatever it is that has happened that's challenging, now on top of it all, we're not spiritual enough. Oh, we talked about surrender and letting go of that attachment to have every single thing, not just go well, but go according to the exact plan that I mapped out at 17, which, by the way, had me having my PhD already and not 5 kids. So today's talk is called Phoenix Rising. And really, it's one really, really long talk, but they wouldn't let me stay up here for 35 minutes last week because it's absolutely okay that we all fall down. But we don't want to live there. We're down there, we surrender it over, but we don't want to stay down there. It's like that old country song. If you're going through hell, just keep going. Don't pitch a tent. So this talk is, how do we do that? How do we let go of the pitfalls of all the things that can happen in our mind and our heart and our life when things don't go to what we think the plan is? And last week we used a quote by one of our colleagues, Reverend Patrick Harbula, when he said, "We no longer teach when things go wrong. What consciousness created that?" Remember that day? Any old timers in here? The better question is, what freedom, what love, what joy is wanting to be expressed here, now, right where we are? We want to get back up. Like a phoenix rising from the ashes. We want to get back up. And then it occurred to me that, you know what? I'm making an assumption here. I am assuming that you want to get back up. Maybe you don't want to get back up. Maybe you want to stay down there. So I thought I would honor the people that want to stay back down there and give a few points on how to stay stuck. If you're real committed to staying down there, we can do this, right? Law works both ways. So step number 1 in staying stuck is armor up. Armor up as tight as you can. In our book of the month, When Things Fall Apart, by the Buddhist teacher Pema Chödrön, she said, when we protect ourselves so we won't feel pain, the protection becomes like an armor, like armor that imprisons the softness of the heart. When we armor up, we are definitely keeping any more badness from coming in, right? But I don't know about you. I've never found the semi-permeable armor that lets in the good and not the bad. So when we armor up, and I want you to imagine, like, I'm stuck. I'm staying stuck. I'm sitting on the ground. I'm staying stuck. I'm not going to actually sit on the ground this time because I'm wearing a dress. For those of you who don't know, I have been known to just throw myself on the ground. I'm staying stuck. I've got my armor on. I am not interested in anything new. Not interested in thinking differently. My road went this way, the road I thought I was supposed to be on that way, and I'm going to sit down there at the fork of the road and I'm staying. And nothing you have to say to me will change it. Of course, we know that if we want change in our life, it requires us to do what? Change. But if you want to stay stuck, if you're committed to this plan, no. Armor up. Don't let in any new thoughts, any new love, any new options, any new ways of thinking about things. Yeah? I want to make sure you've got this because we support everyone right where they are, even those who really want to stay stuck. The second way to make sure you stay stuck is to rely on your own mind, your own human brain, and not the one mind. Allow me to clarify. There is my own human brain. I gotta say, it's a pretty good brain. You know, it's, as brains go, it's reasonable. I'm fairly articulate. I've had some good thoughts. And then there's the entire intelligence of the infinite universe in all of space and time. Every thought that ever has been thought or ever will be thought, every solution, every possibility, every path in this energetic consciousness that we call the One, or God, or Spirit, or Herald, or whatever word you prefer. If you want to stay stuck, it's super important that you ignore that. No spiritual practice, no meditation, don't you dare meditate. You're too armored to let it in anyway, right? No prayer, no reading spiritual books that help set your mind in a different direction, because we're not letting that in. No. We are going to stay in our own human mind and use the best idea that wanders through. Now, I'm not going to say that you might not have a pretty good idea. You might. But if it's a different idea than you've had before, what are we going to do? We're going to ignore it because we've armored up against new ideas. Trust your own human mind and not the infinite. So we're armored up. We're only paying attention to our own brain. And the third step is, and this is essential, while you're plopped down there like that, keep telling the same story. Stay focused on the "somebody done me wrong" song over and over and over and over and over and over and over. It's not my fault. He left me. Oh, that jerk. Oh, I can't believe he did those things. There's a whole road over here you could go on and a whole road over here you could go on. No, I'm going to stay right here like that, telling the same story. And if I'm real motivated, if I'm really motivated, so here I am on the path I find myself, there's the path that I thought I was supposed to go on, I'm at the fork in the road, maybe a step or two past before I realized that the universe went on without me. If I'm even more motivated than someone who's going to sit there, I might try to crawl backwards, back to the moment where things went wrong, to fix it in my brain. If I had only done blah, 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 blah. If I had only said blah, 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 right? It's totally just me that ruminates on these things. Yep, I understand. You're all very spiritual people, so I get it. Crawling backwards, going back in time, retelling the story with different endings. Maybe if I had said this, they wouldn't have fired me. Maybe if I had said that, he wouldn't have left. Maybe if I hadn't done that thing, I wouldn't have been arrested. Crawling backwards. That's a different story. Meanwhile, there's a whole road in front of me, right? I'm crawling backwards to get on that road. But what do we know about the universe? We know that the universe is forever creating the next best, perfect, highest path for us. So if I think I'm supposed to go this way and I go this way, what does the universe do? It immediately rearranges itself and conspires with all of the energy of the universe to build a new path. And what is that new path? The highest and the best for me now. But what cannot the universe do if I refuse to get up? It can build me the most beautiful path in the world, but if I don't walk on it, I get to stay stuck. Okay, so everybody who's super determined to stay stuck, armor up, nothing new. Ignore God completely, just use your own brain, and keep telling the same story. Everybody super clear? Now, there's a possibility that some of you don't want to stay stuck. So I figure I better address that as well. I don't want to be biased in favor of the ones that get to stay stuck. And conveniently, it's exactly the opposite instructions. The biggest thing, if we want to get up from that place of having fallen down, is to be open to change. Unfortunately, in humanity, the only thing people are more afraid of than death and public speaking is change. Oh, we will do anything to avoid it, won't we? It's ridiculous. We'll sit down. Can't make me. See, the slide won't even change. It's amazing. We will pout, we will rail, we will fight, we will make stuff up, we'll interpret, we'll crawl backwards over broken glass to something that obviously wasn't working in the first place, or we would have stayed on that path. But the idea of change, it overwhelms us. The first thing we have to change is the depth of our belief that the universe has got us. We say it all the time. It's one of the fundamental premises of this teaching, is that the universe is conspiring for our good, for my good, for Peggy's good, for Reverend Karen's good, for everybody's good. The universe is conspiring for my good. And that is a beautiful thing to say until everything collapses. And the only way you can move forward is by anchoring into that completely. I think we've all had that moment when we have to say, for me, it was literally sitting in my backyard during a rainstorm, pouring rain. And something was up in my world, and it was either I change completely or I stay sitting in the rain. It was literal rain, but it was metaphoric rain too. And the question we have to ask ourselves, the question I had to ask myself is, do I really believe what I say I believe? Do I really? Do I believe what I say I believe enough to get up and walk these next steps, even though I have no freaking clue where this path goes? I had a plan. I'm not kidding you. I had a plan from the time I was 17 of exactly how my life was going to go. And about age 31, it took a hard left. Do I believe what I say I believe enough to know that my heartache right now is part of my best and highest path? Take a breath on that one. To look right at the situation that has me wanting to sit down in the middle of the road and go, no, I'm done, I'm not doing it. To to look right at that situation and say, somehow, some way, the universe has created this for me. Because the right and perfect path for me is not the one I had planned. That is no longer the highest path for me. There is more for me than that. Can we do it? This month's topic is faith. And this requires a blind leap off the cliff, believing completely that Spirit has got us. And we have to be willing to take the step off the cliff. I'm going to amend that. We don't have to be willing. We can stay stuck. I think we all know people who have clearly and intentionally made that choice to just stay stuck. But those kind of people don't tend to come here. I know y'all try to invite them, don't you? They're all like, oh, no, I'm fine how I am. Stuck. Ernest Holmes, the founder of our teaching, wrote in This Thing Called You, which, if you've ever wondered, is my favorite book of all time. If you have not read This Thing Called You, it's about this thick, it's super easy read. Go get it right now. Well, not right now, when I'm done talking. He said, to realize that God is ever present, ever available, is to know that all the wisdom, intelligence, and power of the universe is right where you are. Your word is power when you know this. This is why everything in your life depends upon your belief, why it is done to you as you believe. Change your belief, and you can change your world. Change your belief, and you can change your world. When you change your belief to the knowingness that the universe is building that perfect path in front of you, no matter where you step. If I go here, the universe is now building the path this way. We can't screw it up except by refusing to play. And it's true for all of us in all of our 7.5 billion different paths, because God is, what did he say? Ever present and ever available to all of us. But we got to be brave. It's a big step off that cliff. We know what the payoff is if we choose not to be brave. It's staying stuck. And there are payoffs to that. Don't get me wrong. We get to be right. We get to be righteous. We get to be angry. We get to wrap other people up into our emotional charge. You know, oh, I'm not going to call you, my sister says, because you won't feel bad for me. I'm going to call my other sister because she can wrap her in so they can talk about how bad that man is or that job is. Got to be brave to take that armor off. Or even better, to refuse to put it on in the first place. So, the reason I named this title Phoenix Rising, other than the obvious, I mean, we are in Phoenix, is that there are some really interesting aspects to the Phoenix story. The Phoenix lives a life, one full life, walking whatever path this Phoenix chooses to walk. And when it's old and ready to die, it catches fire and it burns up into a pile of ashes. And then a new baby Phoenix is born from those ashes. We know the story, right? Either from mythology or philosophy or Harry Potter. But here's the thing. New life is born from the ashes. You never see an old, scraggly old Phoenix come up out of those ashes. At least I don't. You don't see a Phoenix trying to live life in reverse, coming up old and trying to get back to the point where they felt good about life. New life emerges, different life. That's what we're called to, if we are to be the phoenix reborn, we have to let ourselves be reborn. We can't stay the old us and be reborn. It doesn't work. We can't fly backwards to our teenage nest and our teenage wings. Oh God, remember the teenage wings? They were so nice. They were so slender. We have to let ourselves be something new, something fresh, something different than anything we've seen before. No matter how scary it is, no matter how much we don't understand what's happening, we must be ready to let ourselves take those new little baby bird steps, trusting that the universe has got us. And isn't that the story of this community right now? After a glorious 24 years of being that big, bright, beautiful bird, the fire came and the ashes landed. And there were those among us who looked at those ashes and went, well, damn, guess we're done. There were those among us who looked at those ashes and said, I am not up for this. This looks tiring. And it was. There were those among us that tried to grow our old phoenix bird back, aging backwards, chasing the memory of, well, when Reverend Joyce was here and when Reverend Michelle was here and when we had 400 people on a Sunday and when we needed this building because we were so big and so full that we were filling up 2 services and going backwards and then looking at what we had now in our little pile of ashes and our little baby bird and saying, that's not enough. But those of us who have chosen to be the baby bird, and those of us who have chosen to return to nurture and become the baby bird, are getting to see what it looks like now that we're old enough and big enough and strong enough to flex our wings, and we are flying. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, come to the town hall in the social hall after service and you'll get to hear all about it. And if you know exactly what I'm talking about, come to the town hall. We deserve to celebrate the excitement that is this community right now, the love that is this community right now, the radical inclusivity that is this community right now, because we're not in the ashes any longer, and there is more than enough room in this nest for everyone. And so it is. Let's anchor that in with some prayer. So here's what I know. There is only one perfect mind, one heart that connects every heart to every other heart in its absolute inclusivity and its absolute wholeness. One love, one truth, one mind, one knowingness into which we can all anchor. Because life is happening for us, not to us. Life is happening through us, not at us. And so whatever is in each of our individual hearts, whatever is on each one of our individual minds, we give it up. We give it up into the heart of the one, knowing that there is more than enough divinity to hold every one of us. There's more than enough joy and abundance and goodness to supply all of our needs. There's more than enough healing. There's more than enough grace pouring down over every single one of us. There is more than enough in a universe made in the image of the one. And that is what I claim. That is where I choose to live. That is why I get up and step again. Releasing my attachment to what I think needs to happen. And letting God do God in bigger and brighter ways than I could ever have claimed for myself. And so I invite all of us into that action of godliness ourselves as we let the infinitude of life pull us into our greater vision. I know that every single one of us is blessed profoundly, and it is so very good. We know this together as we say, and so it is.